Welcome to Series 2 of Iconic Rides. In this series, we're going to be featuring some beautiful, iconic cars and planes from the past, and hopefully you'll learn something along the way too. Today, we are at Cropredy Bridge Garage, where we're going to see what goes into restoring an iconic British car. I caught up with Mike Cantelow to find out more. Hi Mike, thank you so much for letting us be here today. How are you?
That's okay, it's an absolute pleasure. So yeah, very good, thank you.
So Mike, tell me a bit about where we are and what happens here.
So we're in Cropredy Bridge Garage, which is in the little village of Cropredy, just outside Banbury in Oxfordshire, and we are the world specialists in Jensen restoration.
Jensen cars have a bit of a checkered history, don't they?
They do.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So they were an interesting company run by the Jensen family, brothers, and they were then taken over when the Interceptor was created in Italy. So they took the CV8 to an Italian design house, and the Italian touring company designed the Interceptor. The Jensen brothers hated it, didn't think it would succeed, and ultimately left the company.
Okay, wow.
So the car that you see and you've been involved with filming is the Interceptor. The very first ones were made in Italy, in Turin, first 50 or 60. We've actually got a press car next door. And they were then built for about 67 to 76, so about 6,000 examples. The
car that most people associate the Jensen with is the Interceptor. Tell us why that is and what makes it so special.
The Interceptor, it's an iconic design, so there was nothing else seen like that on the roads at the time. It was the first car which had that huge glass rear screen until Porsche came along with the 924 later on. There were lots of other developments on the other models that were equally sophisticated, but the Interceptor itself, nothing had been seen like it before. Big, powerful GT, very comfortable, very sophisticated for its day, so easily comparable at the time with the likes of some of the Astons and E-Type Jags.
It is very, very special. Tell us about this American V8 under the bonnet and how that came about. That's what we want to know about.
Yeah, so the heat generator, yeah. So the massive V8 from Chrysler started off as a 383 cubic inch, which is 6.2, and then became 7.3, which is the 440. So very under-stressed unit, lots of power, lots of torque. It was ideal for a GT, for a big car, offered plenty of performance at a time when, in the early days, fuel prices weren't a problem.
Back many days ago. Who is the customer nowadays for a Jensen?
So we see a lot of clients who are in their late 40s to 60s, who can remember the cars when they were younger, so either friends, parents had them, family members had them.
Of course, so it's kind of like a blast from the past, a little memory. Yeah. What makes them come to you?
Well, we are, without a doubt, the specialist. So there is nothing that we haven't seen, good or bad, on the Interceptors, and there's nothing that we can't put right.
There are some very special skills that are needed to restore one of these cars. Tell us what they are and why.
Fundamentally, is getting all of the structure of the car right. So the fabrication department is key. So if you imagine it's like building a house, if you don't get the foundations right, then you're wasting your time with everything else. So they're quite complex in terms of their structure. They were designed by Italians not for the British climate, so they rot really well.
Okay.
So understanding what the important parts of the vehicle are, so the beams and the sills. Won't bore you with the technicalities, but you need to know about all of the aspects of the vehicle that give it its structural rigidity, where their weak spots are, how to rectify them, and then work up from there. After the fabrication work's done, then obviously there's all of the mechanical, electrical, interior trim and paint work. So we have a world-class paint shop, without any shadow of a doubt. I used to run an Aston Martin factory in Newport Pagnell. We did some really good paint jobs. The small team we have here put out work that is easily equivalent, if not better.
Do you see these cars going up in value, like we saw the E-Type did a few years ago?
Yes, they've not had the same they've not had the same attention as some of the E-types or the Astons. Don't know why. I guess they were made in slightly higher numbers than the Astons. They were a comparable price at launch back in the day. I think just the expense of restoring them is huge. So an Interceptor could quite comfortably swallow £100,000, and at the moment they're not worth that.
Okay.
So some of the other models are, but not the Interceptor.
So what else would you say it takes to get one of these cars back on the road?
So all of the guys that work here have a real in-depth knowledge of the cars, how they were constructed back in the day, and they're all extremely skilled at what they do. So we've got a mechanical and electrical team here, only a small team, but again, there's nothing that they haven't seen, can't fix. The paint shop are second to none. We've got a fantastic trim guy that's joined us, and again, he's had experience on Jensens in the past. So it's the combination of all of those skills. They all work together, they all communicate with each other, and essentially the cars leave here better than when they left Jensens originally. So there's other things we do. We e-coat the cars, which was never done back in the 60s and 70s, so that they will survive the British weather better than they did.
So the biggest problem back in the day was it overheating?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So you've got a massive engine in a confined space. There was not sufficient airflow through. So lots of things have happened over the years. So the radiators have improved, the fans have improved, electric fans. We ensure that we can get the maximum airflow through. You can minimise the heat by lagging certain areas, parts of the exhaust system. Making sure the fuel lines are lagged away from anything hot is always a good idea as well. And then other than that, there's fuel injection. So we have clients who've asked to have fuel injection put on, which meters the fuel much better, as it means that the hot starting is easier. So all sorts of things that can be done, but it's a combination of lots of things really. So learning from all of the issues that have occurred over the last 30, 40 years, new technology, new products, how to apply them better.
Now we understand you have one of these cars that we can have a little drive in, is that right?
We do.
Right, let's go and check it out.
Okay.
This is the beautiful car that we're going to be taking a ride in. Tell me a little bit about her.
So she's a Mark III, 1974 from memory, so been very well looked after. Currently for sale. Customer's had her about 20 years. He's been told to downsize his collection.
Oh dear.
But it's, yeah, it's got a bespoke interior in terms of colour.
I love the colours, it's beautiful.
It's a nice colour.
So pretty. Yeah. And how much is she going up for sale for? What?
About 50.
50. Yeah. Amazing. Well, let's go and take a look at her.
Okay.
So I wasn't expecting, the engine is so loud. That is a crazy roar that this car has.
Yeah,
Sounds absolutely fantastic.
they do sound brilliant. They're big Chrysler V8, 7.3 litre, so you can certainly hear them coming.
No, 100%. It's definitely a showstopper on the road, that's for sure. I'm absolutely obsessed with the interior. Was this a customer's preference?
Yeah, so the guy bought the car about 20 years ago and he had it retrimmed in this colour.
Nice, lovely. What sort of maintenance would it need then after being retrimmed like this?
Ideally you don't want to be getting in it with Gene Smith studs in and anything metal which will scratch it. And then just keep it clean really is the best maintenance. You can get products for nourishing the leather if it gets a bit dry and a bit cracked.
Of course, yeah. I'd be absolutely terrified when any sort of colour in this gorgeous leather, for sure. How does it handle at high speeds in this weather?
So it's a GT, so it's not a sports car.
Yeah.
So you know they're best at 60, 70 miles an hour. So you can push them along, and they handle quite well. Arguably, I've driven some old Astons, and I think you know, they drive as nicely as those, probably a bit more refined actually.
Oh really?
Yeah, they are, you know, they're a good GT, so a long distance cruiser, which is what they were designed for, as long as you don't mind lots of fuel stops. I mean, I think, you know, Jensen's, in my opinion, and having got to know them over the last couple of years, they're quite an underrated car.
Yeah.
You know, when everybody looks at 70s Jaguars, 70s Astons, and Jensen's are quite often overlooked.
Yes.
And I think it's a shame. You know, they're a very capable car. You can go away for extended periods of time. It's got a very decent sized boot.
Yeah. So why do you think that is then? Why do you think the Astons kind of got more popular than the Jensens?
I think a lot of it has to do with film franchises.
Yeah.
For a start, you know, ex-Astons, and you know, Bond is a big integral part of the Aston history. E-types just captured the imagination from the day they were launched.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, had Jensen not gone bust when it did in 1976, I think this car would have been developed quite a lot further with a, you know, a different gearbox with more ratios.
Yes.
I think the problem was 7.3 litre engine in the fuel crisis.
Of course. Unfortunately, it is such a shame because it is such a beautiful car, and like you say, I find a lot of them, even in your garage, have amazing colours on the inside and outside. Was that always a typical thing for Jensen?
Yeah, so Jensen had quite a wide palette range. So in fact, there were some colours which were adopted by the manufacturers. So there's a lovely metallic green California Sage.
Okay.
Aston Martin use it today.
Oh, lovely.
Most people, a lot of people, in fact I used to associate it with Aston Martin, but actually it's originally Jensen.
Wow, okay, that's good to know.
And it really suits the car.
This fantastic Jensen has really made my day. What a great drive it was, and thanks again for Mike for showing us around. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for here on Iconic Rides, but I do hope you join us again for some more surprises. Goodbye for now.